What's up, everybody? This is Ron.
And I'm Toya.
And this is Conversations Over Coffee.
I just wanted to thank everybody who's been tuning in to our podcast. If you haven't checked us out yet, you can check us out on YouTube. We're on TikTok, Instagram. We'll be posting snippets of our podcast on TikTok, and you can watch the full episodes on YouTube. Right now, we're all the way up to episode 4, so we're excited about that.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, so Ron, you want to take it away?
Yes, ma'am. Let's go ahead. We're going to go ahead, and you guys know we're always sipping on something. So we're going to go ahead and go over what's in our cup. We're going to let Toya go first today.
Okay, well, I'm sipping on something a little different today. I'm sipping on some beer. It's hot here. And today I'm sipping on some Dragon's Milk. So if the guys haven't checked out Dragon's Milk, this is the Tales of Gold, the Burrow Barrel Aged Golden Ale. And it's very good. Dragon's Milk is a little strong. So
it is. 11% ABV. All right, I'm sipping on a little Blood Oath here. This is pack 10. Blood Oath does release every year. This is pack 10, which is the 2024 version of it. Very good pour. Ranges anywhere between $120 to $200. So if you get a chance to check it out, if you're a bourbon drinker, check it out. I highly recommend. Also, we're going to go ahead and you guys know that we always do the album cover with every episode. Again, this is one that you guys should know. For all my hip-hop people out there, you guys definitely should know this one. You can kind of see the name, so don't be trying to zoom in there and see it. Y'all know what this is. If you're a hip-hop head, this is no-brainer. Early hip-hop.
Yeah, and then again, we're going to be posting the answers for the artist and the title, the year, on our TikTok page, and you can check out the answers there.
Yes, ma'am. So today we're going to get into our podcast a little bit. Today we're going to talk about the male and female perspective.
Yeah.
This is going to be getting a little bit interesting. We're going to cover a wide range of topics, just typical things that, the outlook from a man's perspective and a woman's perspective on a few different things that we tend to encounter in life.
Yeah, so we're going to start off on the topic of relationship and home perspective. So let's say, who's really in charge of the thermostat? And I know we all had this argument, and I wouldn't say argument, but
it's a debate.
A debate.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, so I would say that Ron knows that I'm always cold, so I keep the temperature on about, I would say in the winter it got to be about 76. But Ron, yeah, tell them what temperature you like.
I think that's the kind of the temperature that we done compromise to in the winter time. Toya, like a lot of our African American women, tend to be a little anemic, which means their iron levels is low. So they tend to be cold throughout the year. Toya having about 80 in the house if she could. I'm a 67 degree dude all year round.
Right.
Ceiling fans on, fan blowing. So this is definitely a debate that we get into, especially early on in our relationship when we first started spending the night at each other's houses, and
especially when I would visit you, and then the temperature would be on 68, I would be freezing.
Yeah, all year round.
All year round.
It don't matter if it's the winter time or not. Yeah. And we live in Michigan, so we have 4 seasons. We get the full fall, winter, spring, summer.
Right.
And when I was 67,
we went
68,
through it, yeah.
All year round.
But I know this is a debate, most couples have, as far as, what's a median temperature for for the house. But,
the great thing with us, though, is that we work different shifts. So, when I leave for work, Toya cut all that stuff off.
I do.
The fan go off, the AC go off, all that stuff go off, and then she'd be under the cover and it'd be like 90 degrees out.
Oh, we talked about it today, didn't we?
We did.
That was actually one of our discussions that we had, that, when am I turning off the air conditioner?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I was thinking about turning off as soon as I.
Because hey, right now our room is cold.
It's nice and cold.
It's
cold. The chill should linger on. Yeah. So yeah, I know that it's hard to say. I don't know, male versus female, yeah. But I do think that more women are a little iron deficient.
For sure.
And then African American women as well.
Which is understandable. You guys go through your cycle, you lose a lot of that iron.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's understandable. But again. We've kind of compromised. I think that we range between 74 and 76 through the winter.
Yeah, we do.
Sometimes, we don't have central air, so sometimes parts of the house are a little bit warmer. Mm-hmm. Yesterday it was 100 degrees, and Toya was sitting in our sunroom with nothing.
I don't know.
Just sitting there sweating.
I don't know. And it's the same with I don't know, like our showers. Ron likes. I would say medium, but I like the steam shower.
Steam.
I don't know. It's just like, I don't know. It's the warm water, the heat. I don't know. It does something for your body. It's
one of those things that when you open the door, the steam rush out.
Yeah, it do.
Like you was in a steam, like a steam sauna or something.
Right.
How you... No, we're not going to skip past it.
Oh, what?
Look, it'd be so bad that if we take a shower together, which doesn't happen very often because she be having that junk on blaze, and I'm like a medium hot guy normally, but like on hot days, I take cold showers. So like on hot days like yesterday and today, my shower would be primarily cold.
Yeah.
But like if we do shower together, we got it worked out.
Yes, we do.
Because I get in the front, wash my stuff up, get all clean, adjust the water for her, and then we do the little dance and we slide past each other.
Okay, so, but yeah, that's a debate that we have as far as temperature. Yeah.
So let us know what y'all how y'all are.
What do you think? What's your debate with the temperature in the house? And as we go through these, you can always leave a comment, below the video.
Yeah.
And we want to hear what you think. So let's see, how does men and women multitask differently? So do you think men can multitask just as well as women can?
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
And again, I think that is just different. So, like you guys multitask a certain way, and it may be a little bit, like we may not recognize the fact that you're doing multiple things at once. Mm-hmm. And it's the same for us. We multitask and we're doing, 4 or 5 different things at one time. Like I might be sitting here working on something, but then I'm also having a conversation with you. I'm sitting here having a conversation with one of the kids on the phone. Mm-hmm. I'm sitting here, maybe my eye is over here if one of the grandbabies is here.
Yeah.
So men can multitask. We do it all the time, and if we're preparing stuff around the house or doing things like that.
Do you think you can multitask as far as, I would say women, because we, are mothers, we bear children, we have children to nurture too. So that's why I would just say, I feel like we're great natural, multitaskers. Do you think men can manage that as well, the kids and coming home and preparing dinner? I mean, I know now it's a shared responsibility. So
I have 6 kids, 6 grandbabies, do it all the time.
Yeah.
I when it was me with the kids, I had to try, and I ain't the cleanliest person, so when I was single and had kids at the house, it was a struggle to keep the house clean, and we'll touch on that later, maybe. But definitely. We have the ability to make sure the house is fed. The house is presentable, make sure that everything is getting done, make sure the kids are getting ready for school, take them to school, come home, get what needs to be done. We have that capability too. Again, I just think that we look at things a little bit differently when it comes to multitasking.
Yeah, or maybe, I wouldn't say what you manage it a little, does men manage it a little differently, but I also have the question of what about, can you multitask mentally? I don't know. Again, it's a lot to try to mentally maintain and handle, work, juggle the kids, home. So do you think men can kind of multitask, on that level?
No question. I especially speaking from my perspective, and again, I don't know how other men handle it, or the type of relationships other men have with their kids.
Yeah.
My relationship with my girls are very close.
Yeah.
Deja calls me all the time. She's in medical school, so she has frustrations. Different experiences that she's run into in the hospital. The type of people that she runs into.
Yeah.
So Deja calls me a lot.
Okay.
And that's okay. I love her to death. Well, it's okay. But she calls me a lot.
I think we get that from our other kids, though. But again, that's kind of where I'm going. Those unexpected, phone calls. And we kind of touch base on this kind of like in a couple of episodes. Yeah. Just those unexpected things can, turn on and off and be able to really, like I said, mentally manage and, multitask. So I know, sometimes women are looked at like, they can, we're made to do that. Right. Or built to do that.
I think you guys are maybe more naturally equipped. Like you said, you guys are mothers, so you guys have a natural instinct to raise children, which is a multitask in itself.
Right.
You know what I mean? So I think you guys are more natural at it. Yeah. But I think that men do it from a different standpoint of we got to get shit done.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Like a woman can kind of relate to that because you just know that you do. You have to multitask. And everyone's not the same. We do have people who can't, multitask.
Oh, no question. On both sexes.
Right. Rather the gender, Yeah. So, I guess that's, fair that men can manage as much as women can.
See how they be doing this,
I'm like y'all team.
Fair. It ain't fair. We earn that. Right?
Yeah. But you do a great job. I think, I would say you do a great job with, handling the high level of, and where I guess it would be, the need, and the role as being a parent too.
And I think that
on the same level for both male or female.
And I think that, with you guys being more of a natural, raiser of children, men, when it comes into that, we're more natural at, making sure when a situation comes up, we handle it. So we jump into action. And that action might cause us to do 3 or 4 different things at one time to get the situation taken care of. We might have to calm somebody down and kick somebody over here, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
So we definitely can multitask.
Okay, let's move on to our next topic. Let's get into money and roles. So this is kind of a well-known subject that's talked about, and that's who should pay on the first date. This is a very debatable male and female topic. So who paid on our first date? Should I not ask that?
You can ask that all you want to, but everybody that know me know who paid for
the viewers.
Look, it was no doubt me.
Yeah, it was you.
And I think for the most part, men are expected to pay for that first date. Which I think is fair.
Yeah.
I think that it's if a man is interested in a woman, he's trying to get to know her a little bit better. He should, pay for that first date. You know what I'm saying?
I guess so.
The question though is, what's the standard to that first date? Because if you telling me the type of person that I am, if you telling me I gotta take you somewhere and spend $500 on our first date, we not going. And I'm just flat out, we gonna be friends, we gonna be cool, I'm no longer interested.
The type of person I am, I wouldn't have,
no question.
It goes to knowing who you're, getting involved with.
Yeah.
But, me personally, no, I would not expect that, on the first date.
But let me ask you this.
But I guess it all depends on, you kind of decide that when you're on the dating scene, what type of person you're looking for.
But let me ask you this, though. Like, as far as society is concerned and how it's looked at, what is the standard date for women? Like, not from your perspective, but from society's perspective as far as women. Like, what's the standard date? Because you hear these women talking about, you better not take me no cheesecake factory.
I mean, there are standards.
And I'm the type of dude that I'll take you on a coffee date because, again, the first date is an opportunity for us to get to know each other.
It is. No, I agree. But I just...
So what's that standard?
I feel like, again, it depends on what type of person you're getting involved with. There's two types of women, just like there's two types of men, for the women, it would be stereotypical things is that, of course, you have the high class woman or, high maintenance. Let me put it this way, just because you expect that stuff don't make you high class. Because you high maintenance is not mean you high class. Yeah. But then you just have, someone who's looking to see, it could be on a romantic scale, just, really seeing how you can make them, feel good without any materialistic things attached to it. So I think I am on that side. I kind of try to look within, and see, what can evolve, because I feel like it's room for that. Yeah. It's room for that.
I mean, again, I think when you start into that dating scene, your first thing needs to be, again, if our first conversation is over a $500 meal and I see that we not gonna work out, I'm gonna be pissed because I just spent $500 for nothing.
And you know what I'm saying? I guess is excuse me, you get into what you're, I don't know, does men like try to get something out of it, because you spend that, is it about that?
I mean, I think that society has put an expectation on it that if I'm spending $500, you're giving me some booty. You know what I'm saying? Which honestly, it again, which goes back to it's a first date. Mm-hmm. Me as a man, I'm not expecting anything other than a great conversation in that first date. Yeah. We can go, like you shouldn't be at no movie theater, you shouldn't be at no concert. Yeah. Like, no first date should be to that, because the whole point of dating is to get to know each other. Yeah. So that first date needs to be a serious conversation about, hey, what's your foundation principles like? Okay. And I'm gonna tell you my foundation principles, and then, hey, if our principles don't align on that first date, we know, like, hey, you cool people, we good to be, friends, but it ain't no point in us having a second date because our foundational principles don't align, and we're not gonna work out.
So who should set the first date? Should it be something that the guy should decide, or should it be something that the female should decide?
I mean, again,
or should he ask the female where would she like to go?
You know me, and I think that a lot of guys don't do this. Mm-hmm. But the conversation before that first date needs to be about what her interests are. Yeah. What type of stuff she likes. If I'm planning to take you to dinner, I need to know that you're allergic to seafood, or that you don't like seafood. Right. You know what I'm saying? So those are the type of questions that people need to ask before that first date, so that I don't take you to a rock concert and you a jazz person. You know what I'm saying? So I think that a lot of men don't take the time to really ask the questions of what that woman's interest in is, and his expectation is that, well, she's expecting me to take her to the nicest place out there, and I'm going to spend this kind of money, and it don't matter what her interest is.
Yeah, so I think it's all about, expectations. No doubt. If you all go back to our last episode on relationships, again, we do touch base on, again, making sure that you get to know the person that you're with. Right. Because, that's the foundation of the relationship. And it's really, again, if that's what you're looking for, a relationship. Yeah. But I guess you have a certain class, you have a certain type. People have types, too.
Oh, no question.
I mean, if you like that, high class, high maintenance type, and you live that lifestyle, man.
Yeah, and again, though, that discussion is had. Yeah. You know what I mean? So you should know that before that first date even happens. Right. And I think about, there was a podcast I was watching, I can't remember what it was, and I know you don't know who Travis Hunter is, but I'm sure a lot of people out here do. Travis Hunter is just got drafted number 2 overall in the NFL. He's had a long time girlfriend. They got married after he signed his contract. Yeah. $500,000 wedding. He bought a $250,000 G-Wagon. You know, so now they was like, that's the bar.
Yeah,
Like,
I mean, you already
like
set
how
the
do you
bar.
go below that bar now and you
already
can set the bar at that level? You know, like if he starts to go down, like, baby, I can't spend $250,000 on a car for you every year. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like that bar now, what's her expectation?
Yeah, so I think, you know, and I think women kind of, I mean, some women kind of set the bar, but I mean, I think as a woman, you already know that bar.
Yeah.
You already, you know, and again, just like a male, you already know kind of what you're looking for. But again,
I mean, personally, your own bar, no question.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you know, again, we know. You know what we're looking for, but just because I'm looking for something in particular doesn't mean that you're looking for that same thing.
So I wonder, does guys stay on, you know, does guys always think that is the bar, you know, that there has to be this high expectation you feel like to impress on the first date?
I think, again, it boils down to individual. Yeah. I think society has set it so that men do feel the pressure of making sure that first date is something great or memorable.
Right.
A guy like me, I don't give a damn about none of that. You know what I'm saying? Because again, if I'm searching for the person I want to be with for the rest of my life, and you have an issue with the fact that I want to sit down and have a conversation on our first date, we met in an Imagine Theater parking lot. Yeah. Walked to a sports bar. We didn't even eat. We had drinks.
Yeah, we did.
And we had conversation.
Yeah, we talked.
Like if you have a problem with that type of first date for me, then I already know my answer.
Yeah.
We don't have to go no further.
Right.
You know, and I think that we need to learn to cut that tie as soon as we realize that it's not going to be good. Right. You know what I mean?
Because you already have kind of like the red flags and the warning signs, you know?
No doubt. Okay. So kind of tippy-toeing off of that, or kind of, you know, attaching a little bit of that. Let's talk about, we agree that men probably should pay for the first date, but let's talk about men as a provider. Like what's a man, is a man expected to be the provider of the family?
I feel like, again, there's always this traditional, you know, societal look at things.
No question.
So it's always been where, yes, the men, or I was raised that, you know, or seen that role where the man was the provider in the household. But it was kind of a double standard for me. But again, you know, times have changed. This is 2025, and those roles kind of, depending on your household setting and what works,
right,
that role has changed. You know, that view has changed.
You said something. You said double standard. Like, what do you kind of touch on that as far as your household?
Growing up, you know, I got to see kind of like my grandmother. You know, many of us probably been in a situation where in my household, my mother and father both worked. Right. So, you know, we were watched by our grandparents, and you know, just seeing how, you know, she was from the South. You know, my grandfather was from the South, so he was the provider. She stayed home with the children. Yeah. She never worked to this day. She, you know, she may have had small jobs, but she was mainly home. So again, in their foundation, you know, home, it was already the foundation set that, you know, my grandfather was the provider. So for me, coming up in a different generation, you know, seeing my mother, times were changing in the 80s, you know, women were stepping up in the forefront in the work field. You know, you have to also consider careers, and that's just the way it is today. And women are still stepping up in the forefront today, climbing, you know, on the, you know, up in the career scene. So again, you know, I had to kind of make a choice, you know, as a woman, you know, what did I want out of, you know, life, you know, I don't know. For me, of course, I don't know if all women are the same, you know, you kind of growing up in that time frame, and that, you know, kind of being set in your head that, you know, I want that. You look for that picket fence, that, you know, white picket fence type of lifestyle. Right. But then you figure out things don't work like that sometimes. Not anymore. Life takes a twist, takes a turn, you know. So again, I just think that not to look down on a man who is not the sole provider, that his, you know, that his role in the relationship is not important, you know.
Right.
That's a boy right now.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think that, you know, as far as society looks at it from a man's perspective,
Mm-hmm.
you know, I think that we are expected to be the provider. But I think that the definition of the provider is something that we need to look at as far as society.
Yeah.
And it shows in like the little history that you gave of your family.
Mm-hmm.
So, for example, your grandmother didn't work.
Yeah, yeah.
So, you know, when they were growing up, you know, that's how it was.
Mm-hmm.
And then you get to your mom and your
Yeah.
dad, and both of them work.
Right, right.
And when you look at today, because of the way cost of living is and how expensive it is to own a home,
Mm-hmm.
to have 2 vehicles in the household,
Yeah, yeah.
it's extremely
The cost of
difficult
living
for a
is
man.
expensive.
Yeah,
the cost of living.
it's extremely difficult for one person to be able to provide financially
Mm-hmm.
for the whole household.
Yeah.
So I think that, you know, as times have changed,
Right.
we need to really look at what a provider is.
Yeah.
For me, a provider isn't only a financial thing.
Mm-hmm.
For me, as a provider is somebody who displays leadership for their family.
Yeah.
Somebody who, in situations where things need to be handled, they don't hesitate and they handle them.
Right.
Don't matter how much money they're making, as long as they can set the guidelines, the foundation of your family,
Mm-hmm.
how we're gonna handle things.
Yeah.
You know, just because I make less money than you, also doesn't mean that I'm not the head of the household.
Right.
Like we put so much emphasis on money now
We do.
that it kind of diminishes the role of a man.
Yeah, kind of overshadow kind of what the definition of a provider is.
And we have to remember, nowadays, Black women are the most educated. They are able to make money that a lot of us men can't.
Right.
And it's not just Black women.
Mm-hmm.
Women alone. You know, when you think back to the early, 20s, 30s,
Mm-hmm.
Women did not work.
Yeah, they
Like,
did.
it was
And
just
that's
a
kind of
man.
like, how, like I said, just that collide of generations, kind of seeing kind of from my grandmother's perspective and seeing from my mother's perspective. Not saying that, it was wrong,
Right.
that, again, it's just the way it was in our household as of many.
Right.
So, and then you got to look at the aspect of, you have where there is, the woman is forced because of the absent father,
No doubt.
kind of just step up in the role to be the provider.
Yep.
So again, you have to judge everything and put it in perspective.
Right.
You can't, just judge the book by the cover.
And that's something that we go get into in another episode.
Mm-hmm.
Because some of you fellas, some of this shit our fault. That women have had to be so independent. We're going to get into that in another topic.
Yeah, we
but,
can take it to another.
But again, I think about, my daughter's situation, Destiny and Mike.
Mm-hmm.
My daughter is married. When her husband was in school, she was the one working.
Right.
That didn't mean that her husband, Mike, wasn't still the head of the household.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So she was the only one working. She was providing the money to pay all the bills while he was in school.
Correct.
Now the roles have flipped. We graduated.
Yeah.
She's been able to take that motherhood role and be a full-time mother.
Yeah.
And he's, making the money. So again, the roles change per family dynamic.
And
But
sometimes
again,
you have to switch roles for a minute. Doesn't mean it's a permanent thing. You have to learn to adapt and make changes according to how your family is changing.
Exactly.
So again, just the support she gave him allowed him to, pave the way to support his family.
Right.
And step up, to in that role to secure her to, be there for the children.
Right.
So again, when things are looked on at this perspective and you get that foundation on the start of things, and then again, knowing your partner and agree upon that,
No doubt.
instead of, bringing in negativity, downplay, down talk, degrade, that could diminish your partner's,
No doubt.
what am I trying to say, their
role
or, just
their importance in the relationship.
their importance in the relationship.
Yeah.
So again, we want to make sure that we don't do that to our partner, vice versa.
And again, I know my girl's not gonna be easy to deal with because I done taught my girls to be hustlers. They don't need no man to provide shit for them.
And that's a part of I feel a mother as a male you have certain things that you want to infiltrate into your children, daughters and sons, and women as well. You know there are things that you raise up your daughters and sons. So again these things are important.
And it has to be different now. It's not like back in the day where you raise your daughter to be a wife and to search for that man and this, that, and the other.
Yeah, there's more. You're raising them to be independent to me first, which is kind of sad.
But you still raise them to be that wife.
Yeah.
But again, it's more so that they not dependent on it. It's just like my grandmother when she raised me and my brother. Mm-hmm. Like she wanted to make sure that we knew how to cook because she didn't want us to depend on a woman.
Yeah.
To feed us.
Right.
Because she saw the transition in times. Right. Where, it's not the 1920s.
Yeah.
Things are a lot different nowadays.
But,
we have to change our mindset.
But it's all about raising as well.
No question.
It's all about your raising.
Yeah, it definitely
it's all about, it starts in the home. It starts with you, with what, it's all about what you see, as well. So. Right. I guess it's fair for both male and female, depending, like I said, depending on dynamic.
And I think that's the key too, is that we have to understand that each individual situation is going to be different. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? My thing is that the expectation has to change.
Yeah.
This whole 50-50 thing, or a man got to do all of this, we got to change that thinking because it's not 50-50. It's not the man gonna do everything. It's when I'm good, I got 80, you got 20. When you good, you got 80, I got 20. And that might range from 70 to 30, 90 10, 100 to 0. Mm-hmm. But again, when we in that situation where our financial part is at that 0 range, we need to learn to step up in other areas.
And somebody else, exactly.
Male or female.
Right, male or female. So again, you have to get that foundation built, in the beginning.
No doubt.
Right off.
No doubt. That's why communication is so huge.
Yeah, we get right into communication. Yeah. But something I was going to touch on, like, again, not knowing, having expectation can lead to negative effects on your emotions.
No doubt.
Because you always have that expectation. So if somebody falls short, that causes problem in a relationship.
No doubt.
That causes to feel you to feel some type of way.
Right.
So again, which raises the arguments and things like that. So getting on that level, are women too emotional, or are men not emotional available. Not emotionally available, excuse me.
Yeah, I think that again, as a man, and this kind of, you guys are going to hear me talk about our community a lot. And it's not that it doesn't happen in other communities. It's just that it's pushed in our community a lot more than it is in other communities. Mm-hmm. In our community, we're taught young not to show our emotions as a man. And that happens in all communities, but like in our community specifically, it's taught to us that it's a sign of weakness.
I
know what I mean? So, that's where I think that it comes from, that men are emotionally unavailable. Mm-hmm. It's not that we're emotionally unavailable, it's just that our emotions are different. Okay. Like, again, I always say this, that, people don't realize that stress is an emotion. Mm-hmm. When you feel that pressure of stress, it actually creates emotions in your body. Not necessarily sad emotions or, that type of emotions, but it still creates those emotions that get you to a point where you're not yourself.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So I wouldn't say that we're emotionally unavailable. I just think that our emotions are different. Right. And the way that we've been taught and raised by society is that we don't show our emotions. Mm-hmm. So it gets to that point where it's like, well, men aren't emotionally available.
Do you
You know
think
me.
that
You know me, I'm emotional as hell.
well, we're gonna get. I want to get to that side
Yeah,
too.
no
But
doubt.
do you have the perspective? Do you think that just because that stereotype, do you feel women are emotional?
Women are definitely emotional.
Well, they're emotional.
Too emotional?
Too
No.
emotional.
No. Again, I think a lot of this stuff comes down to, conversations with your partner.
Yeah.
To say a woman is too emotional to me is kind of wild because.
Well, I would let me put it this way. Do you feel like a woman that's very emotional and that's only connected to her own needs pushes the man to be unemotional towards her?
I think there's situations where that does happen.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it should. Again,
yeah, sure.
I mean, you're emotional to an extent. You have situations where you get emotional.
Does that cause you to be stressed?
How would it look for me to walk away and be like, okay, you just deal with the shit?
Yeah.
That's.
But there are men like that.
No doubt.
Don't really express emotion towards the woman when she's emotional.
And I agree. Yeah. But in my perspective of how I look at it, what type of partner would I be to let you go through that situation by yourself and not give you the support that you need?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And again, I think that's why it's so important. Like me as a man, I know who I am. Mm-hmm. I know the things that I can do. I know the things that I can handle. I know the things that I can't handle.
Yeah.
I know the things I don't want to handle.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So if I'm the type of man that doesn't want an emotional woman that's going to come to him from time to time, crying and saying things and being frantic at times about what's going on in life, if you're that type of man, then you need to have those discussions with your girl and be like, okay,
figure out how to handle,
exactly, adjust.
Tell how you need for her to express that to you.
No doubt.
But just getting on that, kind of, just saying how society has changed. I feel a little bit with just how more in tune and aware people are of themselves. I feel like men in 2025 are a little more in touch with their emotions. So, for me, with things changing where you don't have this hard, like every man out here
they
trying
still
to
out there.
Well, they are.
I know a lot of them. Yeah, they still out there.
Yeah, just
for sure, they still out there.
Trying to be this hardcore guy.
Yeah.
But also I wonder for women out there, can you find yourself not wanting to be, with a man, too emotional?
Yeah.
Is that a turn off? Definitely being in tune with, and it could go both ways because you can have a too emotional guy, just like you can have a woman who's very emotional,
or don't have no emotions. Don't have none. I know it's women out there that don't have emotions either.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
So I guess it can go both ways.
Yeah.
But again, I feel like men are more in touch with their emotion. But I just wonder, I guess there's always two types to every. You have women who are probably want. Again, that more hardcore guy who's not really, letting her hear, how he's feeling, which again, I think is a little, that's needed more, again, because guys have feelings too. Men have feelings too,
No doubt.
So I just think, as far as communicating, that'll open the door, and avenues for more things to, talk about and learn each other.
Right.
Yeah. So. We're gonna get on lifestyle.
Oh shit.
So this is a topic. I mean, why are you doing like that? Who's cleaner in the relationship, men or women? Who's cleaner? Huh?
No comment.
No comment.
I think this kind of goes back to like I think women are naturally more cleaner.
Naturally more cleaner.
I don't think it's even close. Now, I know it changes per individual. I'm not going to sit here and say all men. I do know my son Justin, OCD.
Yeah,
he moves the furniture around every 3 weeks.
Person.
Yeah. He's a neat freak. clean, you know. So again,
Yeah, it depends on
it's
how
not
it
all men, but
yeah.
in this relationship,
I would say, me again. I'm just, I like things organized. So again, it depends on the person, But I like to keep things, gives me tidy.
yeah.
I feel like the house functions better when, things are flowing, smoothly and everything's not clustered and, things like that. So, that's what I feel. And I feel like, it's a learned habit as well.
Yeah, no
kind
doubt.
of.
But you
for
know what,
women,
though?
I think I have sons, the boys, and who when they were younger, I would just say going in their room. I don't do that now, but just having to keep up after everybody. Do you think do men do that too?
Some, my again. I think back to, and then when you said learned behavior, it kind of triggered something in my head. Like, my dad, when we were young, was one of those clean people, but he didn't want to do the cleaning. So, he would force us to clean it. And my brother he's another one that, it's been a long time since I've been around him, so I don't know if he OCD clean like Justin. But he's one of those dudes that's go clean and make sure that everything around the house is spotless. But I think that's learned behavior from my father when he was younger. Yeah. Also, my brother's a military guy. You know what I'm saying? So again,
you're kind of taught to be on uniform.
Exactly.
So I guess it's kind of a learned behavior, but again, for guys versus girls, even Sierra, as like I said, just seeing how I go through and try to keep things in order, her being a girl, the girl in the house, just she's she's not like me, but again, I also wonder when a mother kind of goes after her son, still on the male and female perspective with cleaning and things, and she's cleaning up after him. Does that kind of diminish or help him? Does that make him more lazier, or does that make him, and of course when you do these acts in front of your kids, you hope they pick up the habit. So again, do you think that hurts or helps?
I think that, again, I think a lot of it is individualized. You know, for me personally, you know how I am. Look, I'll do anything you want me to. If you ask me to go out there and mop the basement floor, but I'll do that.
You do when you do.
But if you don't ask me,
right? I can see that.
I'm not. Now again, I'm not sitting here trying to say that I don't do nothing, because I do. But again, I'm the type of guy that if it's not like bothering me, I'm not gonna touch it unless you ask me to.
With me though, I would say, what?
This woman, you clean every day.
Well, again, it's just still, because things can get out of hand. Like again, when you don't do the dish, and I'm not the cleanest person because I'm not in the kitchen. Look, we don't have a dishwasher right now. I do not, I don't like washing dishes.
But again, I think that's it.
You don't like washing dishes either.
But again, I think that's the difference. I don't think that it's a matter of you not being clean. It's just you don't like washing dishes, and we don't have a dishwasher. So when you don't like to do something, guess what? That's not gonna be the first thing that you run and do. Yeah. I mean, it's just it's not that you're not clean.
You admit you don't like cleaning,
baby. I don't like to do nothing. Like when I get home from work, I mean, that's kind of. It's funny because that kind of go back to my Capricorn thing. What? Like when it come to work, to me making my money, it's different. I do whatever I need to do that. Yeah. But the other part of that is that because I'm like that at work, when I get home, I don't necessarily want to come home and work. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And it's not that I won't, because and Toya, I'm sure she'll tell you. If she asks me to do something, I do it.
You do
now,
do it. And
there are times
say like I can do this.
Yeah, I mean there are times that you asked me to do. It hit me the other day. She asked me to take the little trash can upstairs to the bathroom.
I came home.
And I forgot.
And he forgot. And it was I didn't say anything though. I just
She didn't. She didn't.
He does. He forgets sometimes.
I do. If I'm in the middle of something, and again,
and me too. I do that because how many times do you ask me and you be like. I'm still waiting. Yeah.
And again, like for me, like my Capricorn brain is like constantly going. Mm-hmm. Like it's nonstop. Like for you people that aren't Capricorns, like y'all don't understand like how like our mind it's like
do you understand how the mind of an Aries works?
No, I don't. But I'm just saying, like the thoughts are just like non-stop. So if I'm doing something for a half an hour, 45 minutes, and you say, "Hey, Ron, run that trash can." If that trash can ain't in the middle of the steps of me going up the stairs, I'm probably gonna forget. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? That's why I don't know if you noticed, like when I have to take things to work, I always put it on the little stand by the door. Because I know that when I walk out the door, I'm going to see it and I'm going to go grab it. You know what I'm saying?
I do that too. I just see, I see what you're saying. But I feel like, again, it's kind of like, what you see. It's kind of like a male or female, thing. It's kind of a learned behavior. Right. Because again, like I said, you have females who, or women, women who, like to clean and they're not so cleanly. No doubt. No doubt. Again, for me, it's like, things function better. You know, my brain functions better. When you come in and everything is all clustered, everything just starts. Yeah, no doubt. Looking clustered, and you feel better too when things are clean. Right. So, I guess it's it's a perspective. Individual perspective,
Yeah, but I do think that women are naturally more cleaner than men.
Yeah.
Let's change this up a little bit.
What?
So, let me ask you. She's laughing because where I'm going with it. Let's talk about sex a little bit. Are women more emotional sexually, and are men just physical? So from a woman's perspective, how do you feel about that? Are men just physical when it comes to sex, and are women emotional when it comes to sex?
I feel like all things are set. Again, you have this stereotypical set point of view. For me, women are emotional. Mm-hmm. So I feel like, sex is, sexual relations, all that included. There are, being in touch with your emotions is a part of, what you feel about the person you're looking for.
Yeah.
And I feel like you should know right now, as a female as well, a woman, that, you can want a physical relationship.
Yeah.
So I guess it's all about setting a tone as to, where you're at, what you're looking for in a relationship.
Right.
Are you looking for more of a commitment? Because to me, if you are, that kind of sets the tone for if you're, looking for that emotional connection with that person. For me, I feel like a lot of things are physical for guys. Yeah. What you think?
I mean, again,
I think. Do you think it, well, no.
I mean, personally,
we know that it's just not.
Personally, I think differently than a lot of dudes. So, like, I don't think about things from that perspective. Mm-hmm. From a lot of my friends' standpoint, and a lot of people that I'm around, I work at a plant, so I experience a lot of type of stuff. But I think that men, definitely it's more of a physical thing. Mm-hmm. Society has made it so that the more women that we've been with, the better.
Yeah.
And
what do you call
when
it? Body count.
Body count, yeah, for sure. So the more women I get through, the more clout I got.
Yeah.
I think society has put that on us.
Yeah.
And I think that part of that is the reason why men are more physical than emotional. Mm-hmm. Maybe. But again, for me,
Yeah.
it's deeper than that.
Yeah.
You know, like, you know me, I'm not, like, I got friends that are, and excuse my language, but I got friends that are fuck a light bulb if you let them.
my God.
If it gave them what they needed, they would, literally.
You do have those times.
So I got friends that will sleep with anything. Like, I've never been that type of person. I've always been more, you know, it's more of a, again, you know me, I'm
deeper
vibe,
connection.
chemistry.
Yeah.
You know,
it's more.
I have to, even if it's not serious,
Yeah.
I still need to feel your presence.
Yeah.
Like I have to, like, you can be one of the most attractive women in the world, and if I don't feel that connection, that chemistry, that vibe,
right,
then you're not attractive.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? You're not the type of person that I like. I'm not necessarily saying it's more emotional for me, because obviously it's still a physical thing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But again, I just look at it different.
Do you look at the perspective of, what if a woman's more physical? What if she's kind of disconnected from her emotions? What if she's already like set that tone that, you know, she's looking for the same thing, you know, guys be looking for, you know?
I know a couple women that just as bad as men. Like, seriously. And it, some of y'all women out there, y'all know that, like, and maybe it is that they emotionally disconnect from that person.
Yeah, and it could be for different reasons.
You know what I'm saying?
You never really
no
know what would send somebody off to be, you know, just not emotionally connected.
Yeah.
It could have been some past trauma,
No doubt.
some trauma.
No doubt.
Or
it might just be they like sex.
Or you're right. It could just be like, you know, they like sex. And you do have women who just, you know, like,
no doubt.
you know, I mean, like sex.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, as far as, you know, men being, you know, more physical and women being more emotional, you know, even for me, you know, I feel like, you know, emotion plays a significant, you know, that this sealed the deal.
Yeah.
You know, being able to, you know, on different levels figure out where each other, you know, was at. And again, you know, that's part of having conversation.
Yeah. So would you say like, personally for you, you have to have that emotional connection before you engage in a sexual encounter?
Well, I would just say, I was going to piggyback on that because, again, it is a physical, you know.
No doubt.
Also,
it's a physical act.
A physical attraction is important as well.
Yeah.
So, again, you know, I feel like it's, I don't know, still from men, you know, because, again, they have this, you know, quote unquote,
it's a double standard.
that you can hit and quit, you know, hit it. But for me, I think, you know, a woman has more things to think about as far as, you know, I don't know, just having respect for their body. And you have women who don't respect their bodies that way, or they can turn on and turn off. But, you know, again, it's about the lasting effects of, you know, thinking about the long term, you know, effects of, you know, just sleeping around with people and everything. So, again, definitely for me, I've never been, you know, I couldn't do it personally. Yeah, but
so you said something interesting. Like,
what?
Where do I want to go? Like, as far as, I don't know, I lost my train. Let's just move on to the next one.
Okay.
So along the lines of that, but coming from like more of a relationship aspect of it, let's talk about heartbreak. Like, what's the difference between men in heartbreak and women in heartbreak?
Again, I still think that goes and ties into with, you know, emotional connection, physical, you know, on a different setting, but again, how women handle heartbreak, I guess it really depends on, kind of what happened in a, relationship.
Yeah.
Are you in touch with your emotions? Can you control your emotions? Because it depends on the situation.
A thin line between love and hate was just
it was.
So that kind of made me think about.
I mean, I've been put in situations before,
So do you think that
in life, you just never know how you will react. It's all really if you get set off.
Yeah. So do you think that and just using that movie as an example, if you guys haven't seen A Thin Line Between Love and Hate, which I can't imagine a lot of y'all haven't, but if you haven't seen that movie, basically it's an older woman.
Yeah.
She gets heartbroken, and basically she kidnaps the dude and brings him back or whatever. But
Martin Lawrence, right?
So do you think that like
Me
that
personally,
emotional reaction?
Yeah.
Is that like a typical thing in women when they get heartbroken? Is it that they want revenge and vengeance and?
If the guy hasn't set that emotional tone in the beginning, like, if she's falling in love with you, again, you already know if the relationship is physical or emotional by how the woman reacts to you. You're going to know if she loves you. She's going to know, if this is just, Saturday in love type of thing. So... again, so if that foundation hasn't been built in the beginning, of course, again, it's going to be more of an emotional thing. If you put your all into somebody and, they messing around on you or whatever the situation is, I can see how it could turn into, the heartbreak could turn into a more bitter thing.
Right.
But as far as, me personally, no, I feel like, breakup can be easy when you have really come into clarification where your relationship is, if, if you're at that stage. Yeah.
I think I think we handle heartbreak better.
Men?
I think men do. And the reason that I say that is that and even not necessarily from like an emotional standpoint, because obviously, again, it's not a matter of us not feeling hurt through the breakup. It's more so of us understanding that there's still tomorrow. Like y'all and even using that movie as an example, like she literally wanted to kill my man. So like I've heard stories like y'all.
He kept coming back.
But he ain't keep coming back.
He was coming back.
Man, he made a mistake and told her he loved her. That's the problem.
Yes, and that's what I meant.
But again, the heartbreak of it is that in real life, like I've heard stories of women taking windshield wipers off of men's cars, slashing tires, writing on. I work at a plant. We pulled in the plant and seen people write stuff on it. Yeah, so like I don't know a lot of men that
I feel like men can get to the same level. If you have a woman, just the same, if you have someone who got you really into them, you made them fall in love, you done put it, on them.
I get that. I understand.
You try to break away from something like that, it could kind of drive you crazy.
I understand that, and yes, men can do that. You know what I'm saying? But the fact of the matter is that, we're far less likely to take it to that extreme.
I do feel that. But
you know what I'm saying?
It's all about skill. You should know when you're about to push someone to those limits. Even, I feel like I just watched something that's going around viral about heartbreaking things. Again, a couple who, it could turn out fatal.
Oh, no question.
It can turn out fatal.
I agree with you 100%. But again, I think that more and more situations, though, and again, I think that, in those situations, it's probably the man more than the woman.
Mm-hmm.
But I think there's less cases of that going around than women just bugging out over heartbreak. You know what I'm saying? Like I don't know a lot of my guys that be sneaking over their ex-girl house and breaking her windows.
Well,
I do know one story of a dude that did snatch somebody windshield wipers off that car, which is dangerous as fuck.
Yeah.
If you think about it, because if it start raining and you ain't got no wipers, that's some messed up stuff. Y'all wrong as hell for some shit like that. But again, I get it. You know me. I'm not gonna say all men and generalize like that. But again, I think for the most part, we deal with breakup a little bit better, and we're able to. And I think a lot of it has to do with how they always say, like, y'all women got a saying, like, the best way to get over a man is to get under a new one.
I feel like
they say that.
I feel like for a woman who is really in tune with herself, and you're at a fed up moment, because again we're talking moment. By the time you're at that fed up moment, and now by the time now heartbroken, you see that this person is not emotionally there for you. I feel like and I'm talking from a woman's perspective, and I don't know how long it takes for a man or how he handles this when he knows that you're again. I feel like a woman, you kind of work with yourself. You kind of prepare your heart, how to handle the situation. So if you can do that, then, again, I feel like, heartbreak is not easy, but breakup can be easy, when you are, more in tune and work on yourself through that heartbreak. And by that time, it's a means for end, then, there's no conflict.
I give you that.
So, I do feel, from a woman's perspective, again, and it could be male as well, but again, that goes to the emotion, the emotional connection of a man. Is a man as emotional as a woman? Men could deal with that, again, differently.
No question.
And I don't know. I mean, again, because it depends on, just how involved you are in the relationship as well, and that emotional connection between the couple.
Yeah. I agree.
Yeah.
So let's finish this off on a funny note.
Yeah.
So let's talk about male versus female perspective when it comes to seeing humor.
Seeing humor. Where is this leading to? Where is this leading to?
So one of my favorite movies growing up, and this movie was made in like 1983. And I've been trying to get Toya to watch this movie forever.
And he finally did.
And I finally got her to watch it. And the movie is called Porky's.
Porky's, guys. Have you guys seen Porky's?
I believe it was made in 1983. So there's a lot of film.
Another topic.
Film.
Go ahead.
Film back then was a lot different than it is now.
Mm-hmm.
It ain't nowhere in hell that movie would make it to the theater today.
I mean, it was.
There's a lot of racial, black, Jewish primarily, a ton of things against Jewish people in that movie.
Yeah.
Gays.
Also, it was a lot of male derogatory. It was just a lot of derogatory, things against women. Just stuff that wouldn't cut it today.
And again, if you haven't seen the movie,
funny.
It's hilarious. It's hilarious. And again, if you guys haven't seen the movie, it's basically about high school guys trying to get sex.
Yeah, and I thought that's what it was all about, sex at first. But I did break down and watch it, and it did have a storyline. So,
and Porky's is like a, I don't know if it's not like I guess it's like a strip club back in the day, but you could actually get sex there.
Yeah, that little.
So again, it's hilarious to me. But Toya didn't find it as funny. And some of the things she found actual irritable. For example,
oh my gosh.
There's a scene where the male gym teacher is attracted to one of the female gym teachers.
Yeah.
And she's also attracted to him.
Yeah.
And one of the other gym teachers always tells the guy, get her up to the locker room. They call her Lassie.
Oh,
they call her Lassie.
See what I'm talking about? See?
So
what women have to take?
The thing is, the dude keeps telling him.
Because we wouldn't take that no more today.
Yes, y'all would.
No.
You know. Anyway, so the one gym teacher keeps telling him, get her up to the men's locker room, and you'll see why they call her Lassie.
And guess why?
He got her up to the men's locker room, and the smell from the gym clothes, the dirty gym clothes, turned her on. And basically, they were in the men's locker room, and they started to have intercourse.
Mm-hmm.
And she was howling like a dog.
Like a dog. Oh, what a way to put it.
That's what it... But that's why they call her Lassie. Okay, a wolf. It's a dog. A wolf, a canine.
So basically they were calling her a female bitch.
No, they weren't calling her that. They were calling her Lassie because of her reaction to intercourse in the men's locker room.
I'm just being extra. I'm just being extra.
That's how she looked.
But just get to the part.
So everybody's laughing, but you could hear her howling throughout the whole gymnasium while class is going on and everything. And everybody that knows anything is dying laughing.
And he was dying laughing at the part. So
I was cracking up.
She starts howling so loud over and over again. And I'm just like, shut up. Why don't you? Because all that, no. So I want to just, women like these corny little movies.
Well, that's what I was going to ask you. Like, what's like when men with humor, where is the woman's, like, what do you guys see? Like, what type of stuff like that
the level
is funny to you guys?
Well, again, taking it back to the time when that movie
we have to keep that in perspective.
I would say thank God.
Yeah.
Times
ain't no way in hell that movie
changed.
playing today.
Because just the disrespect.
Yeah, ain't no way that movie playing today.
Even though, you have that bimbo-ish type woman. Bimbo-ish type girls in it.
And I'm sure there's women that are around like that.
I mean, you can turn the bimbo off when you want to or not. But again, that's the charm of a woman. But no, it wouldn't slide with me. It just wouldn't slide. But again, you said, was it funny? Yeah, it was funny to me. Some parts were, but just knowing the tone of the movie, that it was, derogatory in a lot of ways, just turned me off.
So what do you got? Like, what type of like when it comes to humor? Like, what is like a typical like thing that women would find funny that maybe men don't?
I mean, of course, more of a meaningful to me.
So like
that
a
was
romantic
just
comedy
kind of
type
like, guys farting around in the locker room type shit. Yeah, they was doing way a lot more than that.
Hey, if y'all haven't seen Porky's Man,
go watch.
Fellas.
Don't go watch.
Fellas, if you have not seen Porky, let me tell you something. And I don't know if I should say. Go get you guys some.
Don't get us censored. We're gonna
wacky tobacco.
I'm gonna say we'll get kicked off.
Go get some wacky tobacco. Enjoy that wacky tobacco and put Porky's on.
Don't do it.
I guarantee you, fellas. I guarantee you gonna be crying laughing. If you have not, you gonna be crying.
Well, again, okay.
Keep in perspective that it was made in 1983. Though.
Well, ladies, sit down with your man when he watches it and just see how far along you can get through the movie. And let's see if you be having
before you get up and leave.
Reaction that see if you crack up.
Man, it was a couple scenes you laughed. The black dude in the bedroom when they had.
No, it was funny.
That joke was funny. That joke was funny when he came out there with the machete.
It was funny to me because it was funny knowing that you liked the damn movie. That was funny. I was laughing at you.
See how they do us, fellas? See how they do us? I think she laughed at the movie. She laughed at me and shit. Anyway, let's go ahead and wrap this up.
Yes. Okay.
good little combo.
Yeah.
Let us know what you guys think in the comments.
Yeah.
Maybe there's some topics that we didn't touch on that you guys got some perspective on. If there's things that we said, again, we want to get some dialogue going. Debate is great. Anything that I said or Toya said that you guys don't agree with, go ahead and let us know in the comments.
Also, kind of let us know where you want us to head with our podcast. We've talked a lot about relationships.
Yep.
We don't want everything to be so serious, but we still want to, stay in touch with what's going on and, what keeps your interest. So, make sure you follow us on YouTube. Again, TikTok, you can leave a comment under any of our videos and we'll get them.
Yeah.
Instagram, we still, again, this is a new series for us, so we're still getting set up and everything. So we got a lot of ideas going, and stay tuned for the next episode. We'll be posting that on our TikTok channel as well as an announcement of what that will be about.
Right. Don't forget the album cover. You guys know what the album cover is. Let us know in the comments. Again, hip hop. If you don't know that, again, don't say nothing about hip hop in this thing.
Yeah.
Let's wrap it up and we'll see you guys next time.
All
right.
All right.